Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for joining. First off, I do just want to apologize for the lack of videos that I've been posting lately. So if you notice, I used to be going about every 2, 3, 4 days. And in the past couple weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, I've posted only 2 videos. It's been very, very crazy and hectic around here. Basically, as some of you may know, and if you don't know, I do have 4 kids ages 5 and under. And so we've had multiple birthdays this month. I've had, Father's Day. I've also been very, very busy with my real estate business. And so I do apologize in advance, but I'm hoping to resume and get back on track. And now that I'm able to do Facebook Live, or sorry, not Facebook Live, YouTube Live, this also helps me post regular videos, which is going to help me out quite a bit. I just want to announce, first of all, stay tuned. I do have a video coming. I have a FitSnack box on its way, and I've collaborated with them, and so I will be doing a live unboxing of that, which is should be within the next week or so. So today's video, if you notice by the title, is about basically when my son had a lot of adenoid issues and quite severe symptoms from that. And also the experience we had when he went through removal of adenoids and tonsils. And so he got his adenoids and tonsils removed a week before his 3rd birthday. And so let's start off with the story of how I noticed things were going wrong. And they did they did get bad quite fast. So his symptoms were progressing quite fast. And so they were a lot of concern with, how he was doing. So basically it started when he was about 6 months old, and I noticed he was often congested. He had a lot of sinus issues, and his nose was always leaking. He did have, a few ear infections growing up. Nothing out of the norm where they would say that is like a main symptom of issues. He never had that many. If anything, he had more sinus issues. And so basically it started off like that, and then we noticed that he was often, always congested and having difficulty breathing through his nose. So when he was eating, let's say, he would kind of like, chew his food, and then he would stop and just kind of like chew and stop and just go because he couldn't take a proper breath. And so that's when I started to tell my husband, watch when he eats. Sorry, I have my baby here. Just watch when he eats and notice, how he's eating and the difficulties having breathing. So that was one main thing. And another thing around that time was the amount his nose leaked. We were constantly wiping his nose, and he was always irritated because he had so much droopiness coming from his nose all the time. And so it was very difficult, and I was saying, like, this cannot be normal. Another thing we noticed is that he was very, very irritable. We just couldn't figure out why until one night my husband was down there, and he noticed that he heard him, stop breathing and kind of choking from that and waking up. And so, for a little bit, we started monitoring his sleeping, and we got a little concerned, realizing that he often stopped breathing, although it was very short periods of time. And so I was starting to say, it seems like he has sleep apnea, and he was also snoring really, really loud. And so that was another red flag for us. Another thing was that he wasn't gaining weight. He was sitting at around just before the surgery, a week before his 3rd birthday, at 25 pounds roughly. He was very, very petite. And so he wasn't really gaining a lot of weight. And, if it was just that symptom itself, there wasn't going to be huge concern just because my husband was very petite growing up as well. But with everything else going on, we thought, we're going to put everything together and see, because things just don't seem right. And another thing was that he had a very, very hard time hearing. It started to get progressively worse to the point he would, say, I can't hear the show. And it was loud, and he would just have to turn it up even louder. And so I was like, okay, I talked to the doctor about it. We got referred to an ear, throat, nose specialist, and they actually bumped up the appointment. So originally we were supposed to get seen, I think it was like in March or April. March, April, May, somewhere around there. And they bumped it up to, if I'm not mistaken, February. And he ended up having his surgery in May. And typically around here, I don't know if it's like that everywhere, they don't tend to remove the adenoids at that young of an age. They like to wait till at least 4 or 5. However, if they need to and they feel they need to beforehand, they definitely do. In this case, they did. And so the specialist said, yeah, his adenoids are quite enlarged, and because of his symptoms, we're going to proceed with removing them. And that's how it went. You know, he was so irritable that we were just hoping it made a difference. And before the surgery, we were told that, you know, within a few months, we should notice improvement with the sleep apnea as well as with the snoring. And he should start gaining weight. And the specialist had said, you know, most kids, once they get the surgery, within a year, their weight improves drastically. So we prepared for the surgery. He was going in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he could not eat or drink after midnight. And we went in for the surgery. He did quite well. It was, you know, we met with the surgeon beforehand. We met with the anesthesiologist. And they also allowed me to go into the operating room with him just until they got him drowsy enough so he didn't really remember or, you know, acknowledge that I was even walking out of the room. I think that was the most difficult thing, and I was in tears. It was very difficult for me. The surgery itself was very fast. The doctor came and told us everything went well. In fact, it was enlarged, and they removed the tonsils at the same time just because they were there, not because he really had issues with them, though. The tonsils itself were pretty good. It was just really the adenoids were very enlarged. And so basically, they removed the tonsils just because, again, if later on in life he started to have tonsil issues, then they'd have to put them back down again and go and remove those. So they removed everything. It wasn't long. It took him a while to wake up just from the anesthetic. Sorry, just give me a second here. It took him a while to wake up from the anesthetic, but overall he did quite well. They ended up moving him to a room before. He was still quite drowsy, and I don't know, you know, not as typical, but that's okay. He did well, and they did keep him overnight. Most times they do you're in and out the same day, but because he had such bad apnea, they ended up admitting him for the night. And my husband stayed with him because I had, at the time, we had his brother, which is just about 6 months old, and then I also had his older brother with us, which is 11 months older than he is. And so I ended up just staying in a hotel room because I was still nursing exclusively, and my husband stayed with my son in the hospital. And everything went well, and the next day we were discharged. So we were told to give regular Tylenol and Advil. Sorry, maybe not Advil if I don't remember. Not Advil, I don't believe. I think just Tylenol, extra strength for children, and to give it regularly every 4 hours. And so we did stay on top of that, and he said even though he's feeling fine, you want to stay on top of it, because once it starts to wear out, that's when it gets more painful for them. So we did, and then on day 2 or 3, if I'm not mistaken, it was getting progressively worse to the point that we needed to use the prescribed medication that was given to him. It was stronger, of course. And it did help with the pain. However, he kind of had a opposite side effect. So instead of getting like drowsy like most people would, he actually got very, very hyper on the medication. And so it was hard because we were supposed to keep him low, and you know, he wasn't supposed to do no physical activity or anything like that, just for the risk of bleeding. And so we found that a little bit difficult. But overall, you know, he was quite fussy and irritable for that first week, and but we did not have any complications. There was no excessive bleeding. We didn't have any issues when the scabbing came off on the tonsil area or anything. So everything went quite well, and we noticed almost immediately within a few days the snoring stopped and the sleep apnea stopped, and he was getting proper rest. He was actually less, you know, so much less irritable, and he started to gain much, you know, weight. So just before his 4th birthday, he was up to 36 pounds. So just to show, you know, that he had quite a significant weight gain. And for him, he's still very petite, but like I mentioned, my husband was very small growing up. And so, but just to see that he had gained so much was just so good. So we had a very good experience with our son having his adenoids and tonsils removed. I know not everyone does. It was scary though because he was so young, and no parent wants to see their kids go through that. But overall, we had a very good experience. So if you yourself or your child has ever had problems with adenoids or tonsils, or you're currently dealing with something that you think he may or she may have issues, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have if I may not have touched base on it. I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. But again, I'm not a doctor, so I cannot diagnose you. If you have concerns, my advice to you is go see a doctor as well. But I'm happy to share anything from our experience and how everything went. Also, if you're watching or you see this video later on and you are a parent that have had a child experience this, went through surgery to remove adenoids or tonsils, and you'd like to share your experience, I'd love to hear it down in the description below. And also maybe somebody may stumble upon this video someday and want to read that experience, because everyone's experiences are different. So that's it for today. I didn't want to make this video too long. I just kind of wanted to get down straight to the details of it. And so I do hope everyone has a good evening, and I will be back soon for another video, so stay tuned. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel and click on the notification button, that little bell, to get notifications when we release new videos. Again, I do apologize for the lack of videos, but I'm hoping to resume on regular schedule again soon. Thank you for watching and have a good evening. Bye.